Kids, get your popcorn out. I'm just joking. Hello, critics, non-critics, and friends. Welcome to the Film Optix podcast, where we take a glance into blockbusters, indie films, and everything in between. I'm your host, Christian, and I'm joined here today, as always, by my good friend and my co-host, Devin. And today we're going to be giving our thoughts and reflections on Thor, Love, and Thunder. And before we begin today's episode, you can listen to our podcast on podcast platforms around the internet. That includes Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Google Podcasts, and more. And if you are a new or seasoned listener to the show, we would love to hear from you guys. Follow us on Instagram and follow us on Twitter at Film Optix. That is Optix with an X. Or you can email us at filmoptix@gmail.com for any movie-related questions. Devin, it's finally Friday. How has your week been?
It was good. I had a great Thor's Day yesterday. It was also on my birthday, so that was a good crossover. I see you're working on your Kiwi accent over there. Taika would be proud.
Yeah. Kids, get your popcorn out. He turned the hearts into yards, the pains into gains. Oh my gosh. Taika Waititi is one of my favorite directors. And granted, I don't like all of his films the same, but I still enjoy them all the same. There's been a lot of discourse around this film for Thor, Love, and Thunder. But yeah, I just love that.
For the fourth Thor.
Yeah, I love Taika's like New Zealand accent. Like it's just
That's why he never changes it. He uses it for all of his characters. He's the droid in Mandalorian. He's Blackbeard in his show. He just always sticks with the accent because it's just so pure.
Yeah, Our Flags Mean Death. I definitely need to watch that as well. It's on my watch list. I started Solar Opposites season 3. Only got one episode in. I got to watch Severance as well, but you're finished with Severance, right? Yeah.
Yes, and I'm about halfway done with Solar Opposites season 3.
Look at big man on canvas over here. Oh
yeah, have the week off, just chilling.
That is true. That does bring a lot of that does change a lot of things. Honestly, I probably would be, around the same if I had this week off, but. Yeah, definitely. I'm liking from what the first season I've seen of Solar Opposites. It's good to be back for sure with that. I'm excited to dive into Severance. I saw Thor: Love and Thunder for the second time this week. So saw it first with the critic screenings, and then of course once with the audience. But yeah, it was a great time. So as I said before, here, ladies and gentlemen, we're just here. Going to be talking about Thor, Love, and Thunder. It's going to be a lot of fun. I'm very excited to hear what Devin actually has to say about this. Because like I said before, there's a lot of discourse on Twitter if you're big into the Twitter space. People are kind of like lukewarm on it, rightfully so. If the movie doesn't work for you, that's all good to go. And, it's all subjective at the end of the day. But Devin, are you ready just to dive into this review? Because I feel like we have a lot to talk about.
Oh, am I ready? I know we're an audio-only podcast, but if you guys could see the video, I was born ready.
Obviously, yes. We are a audio-only podcast, but Devin actually spent the big bucks and bought the Thor, Love, and Thunder popcorn bucket that you can buy at your local AMC theater.
This thing was teased like months ago.
It was. And I think Xbox is like doing their own, which is amazing. I love how Xbox is kind of just, he's swinging the hammer around. See, I didn't know how big it was because I tried to buy one and, okay, that's pretty cool. It seems like it's a decent size to put some popcorn in for sure, or just use it as like a compartment for.
Yeah, I'd say it's probably like a small popcorn's worth.
So when I asked for one, the lady just looked at me with disappointment. She was like, I'm sorry. She was like, I'm sorry, sweetie. You were too late.
Yeah, they were being sold like a lot more than I would have expected for that price point. But 2 people ahead of me also got one.
Nice. Yeah, I looked. I was like, curse my day job. I wasn't able to make it here in time, but hey, that's okay. I mean, I could try to go to another theater, but how much was that altogether?
$40. It did come with a large popcorn, which was something.
So I wonder if you can bring that Thor Love and Thunder like popcorn like compartment to any AMC and will they refill it for you for free?
I don't know if it would be free, but I think they could refill it for you. I don't see why not.
Yeah, because I remember when I was younger, I think Cinemark used to do that where you could like bring in, like if you bought like a popcorn bucket from them, they would refill it for you for like, it might have been like a fraction of the price or something of that nature. I do remember that. Man, I miss Cinemark. I miss our Cinemark theater.
we actually went to the Cinemark last night, but I went to an AMC separately yesterday afternoon and got this.
Did you go to the one in Aurora or is that one knocked down?
I think that one is closed. We went to the one in Valley View because it has the XD theater.
Oh, that's right. Yeah, because there was also a Cinemark in Macedonia. I'm not sure if that one's still there.
Yeah, that one's still open.
Oh, okay. See, I thought it was the opposite way around. Man. Yeah, I remember now. Yeah, Cinemark used to be the place to go. But then the Aurora one was technically closer to us after a while. And then that was like the place to go. That's where we saw Avengers. The first Avengers with Dakota shoving the
chicken sandwiches in his jeans.
I can't believe he did that. They were like chicken sandwiches or chicken wraps. That was like the worst. I can't even imagine going through that. But ladies and gentlemen, enough reminiscing of the past. We're going to look towards the future and talk about Thor, Love, and Thunder. So we'll be right back after this introduction to Thor, Love, and Thunder.
Kids, get your popcorn now. Let me tell you the story of the space Viking, Thor Odinson. He was no ordinary man. He was a god. After saving planet Earth for the 500th time, Thor set off on a new journey. Well, he got in shape. He went from dad bod to god bod. And after all that, he reclaimed his title as the one and only Thor. Oh, spoke too soon.
Jane?
All right, ladies and gentlemen, and we are back. You just heard a little snippet of the trailer for Thor, Love, and Thunder, or Thor 4. It's all, I'm getting my THs and my ORs all mixed up today, so I do apologize. So yeah, we're here to talk about Thor, Love, and Thunder. Of course, this film is directed by Taika Waititi himself and stars Chris Hemsworth, Natalie Portman coming back to reprise her role as Jane Foster.
And this one was actually also written by Taika, which was not the case for Ragnarok.
Right. And it also, this movie stars Christian Bale and Tessa Thompson, just to name a few. Of course, there are other appearances, but those are the main four that we follow throughout this entire journey.
But quite a few little guest appearances in this one.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Especially the post-credit scene, which we'll definitely get into once we talk about for spoilers. But so yeah, let's just dive into the initial reactions here. I'll pass it over to Devin so he can give his initial reactions for Thor, Love, and Thunder. And then I'll give mine and we'll kind of just, Actually, before we do that, I do apologize. For anyone who is new here, we usually get into our initial reactions first, those initial reactions. Then we get into our spoilers and then our Easter eggs, final thoughts, and then ratings. So Devin, take it away with your initial reactions of the movie.
All right. Well, this one was thoroughly entertaining and a wild ride throughout for me. There was a lot to take in. There's just so much happening in this movie. It feels like they cut out a couple scenes. It feels like that could have really expanded on a couple characters throughout, which I feel like would have made it even stronger. And the movie itself is visually stunning. I know there's been a lot of drama on Twitter with people posting singular screenshots of single frames of single scenes that don't look up to par, but overall, every action scene is stunning. Like all the set pieces and especially some of the fights towards the end, just some of the most visually stunning stuff you'll see. Obviously, Chris Hemsworth is great. It was nice to bring back Natalie Portman, which was the surprise to everybody when that was first announced because the first two Thor movies, not great. And part of the reason is because they weren't given much good chemistry on screen. They weren't given much to work with as far as those movies went. And this movie did a great job of of building up their relationship more than the first two movies could combined. Like, we got more for their relationship in this one than we ever did before, and just showing how they have connected. And it's not just a physical attraction like it seemed like in the first two movies. Yeah, there's a lot to love. Christian Bale as Gorr, it was just amazing. Do wish there was a bit more of him. That seems to be an issue that a lot of people agree with, but he was just so menacing, and you can tell how much fun he was having, just like going all out in this role, just playing around with it. There's a couple of moments where you do wish some of the characters were expanded upon a bit more. But other than that, it really is just an MCU rom-com at the end of the day. It's very heavy on the comedy. So if you weren't a fan of the comedy in Ragnarok, you're really not going to like this, because it doubles down. Like, it goes heavy on the comedy. In some areas, it feels a bit out of place, but we'll talk about that later. But a great ride overall. A lot of great music too. And Thor, he's back.
I definitely agree with you on a lot of points there. This is technically the first MCU movie we've gotten of, like, I guess you can say now, a legacy character of the Marvel Cinematic Universe, where, you know, we're starting to see the Marvel formula kind of like break off from itself. And, you know, as we stated before, like in our Miss Marvel episodes that you can listen to on the podcast, it is very, it's different. Like, it's a very experimental phase. You know, this is the fourth Thor movie we've gotten, so they're starting to break away from that trilogy aspect, which I kind of like, because I mean, you know, the beginning, middle, end, I get it. At the same time, it is just nice to see what, you know, we're just continuing on with, like, some of these characters, to see where, like, the next adventure takes them. And I feel like, you know, making 4 or even like 5 movies, you know, obviously at some point you kind of have to stop, or it's like, okay, you know, or we're just going to start using Thor more as a cameo or like a guest appearance in other people's movies, or like Avengers level threat movies. But overall, I really did enjoy Thor Love and Thunder. I've written a review for it on InSessionFilm.com, so you can definitely check my full thoughts out there. But I think it's as every bit outlandish as you might expect, especially coming from Thor Ragnarok. Without a doubt, this is definitely one of the best MCU 4 films to date. I still think Spider-Man No Way Home is number 1, at least for me. But this film continuously shows, like, Thor's humanity, and, you know, Taika's able to show his humanity through his countrymen, as well as, you know, the love of his life, which is Jane Foster. And of course, Natalie Portman was, honestly, I feel like she honestly stole the show as Mighty Thor. And as always, you know, you're going to get that quirky, funny Taika Waititi, like, just humor, which it just made me chuckle and giggle throughout the entire thing. And I really just had a great ride with it. And yeah, Devin, as you said before, when it comes to, you know, people taking like a low res photo, like still image, and trying to use that to highlight the entire movie, it's so ridiculous. It really just, I feel like a lot of people just didn't like this movie to begin with. For some reason, there's like a big turn on Taika out of nowhere, and his director style, which I thought was kind of odd, because I mean, you know, is Thor Love and Thunder my favorite Taika Waititi movie? No, but I still enjoyed it, and I love the story threads. You know, Thor Love and Thunder really focuses in on the relationship between Jane and Thor, much like Ragnarok focused in on the relationship between Thor and Loki. So, you know, with both of his parents gone, it's kind of like the last thing that they've needed to address. I mean, you know, Chris Hemsworth as Thor is always amazing, but I feel like he was outstaged just a little bit by everyone else, especially Tessa Thompson, Korg, the rest of the gang. Not saying that his performance was weak, but there were other performances that I kind of just preferred over Thor's. I mean, we know Thor is going to do Thor things, but as far as Gorr, I thought he was fantastic. Like you said before, I know a lot of people who are, they kind of wish they would have gotten a little bit more of him. I personally thought that there was more than enough screen time for him, especially him being like the God Butcher. I did speak to a few of my other buddies about it, and they were kind of wishing that we saw him kill actual, like, more gods, which, thinking back now, it would have been kind of cool to see.
Yeah, it comes back to, it feels like there probably were scenes where he did that, but it feels like they cut some of those out.
Yeah, and especially during the very beginning, of course, Guardians of the Galaxy are in this movie, but only for a short while. There is like a really strange like editing part that happens like towards the very beginning, and we'll get into that once we get into spoilers here in a second. But yeah, overall, I mean, it was just so fun, just having the narrative of Korg. Like, he does it at least 3 times throughout the movie. Kids, get your popcorn out. Let me tell you the legend of the Space Viking. It's just, I don't know. I've always adored Taika's style because he knows when to hit those emotional beats. And there are emotional beats within the story, especially with Natalie Portman's portrayal of the mighty Thor. For those of you who don't know, but we'll get into that once we get into spoilers.
Not Lady Thor.
Not Lady Thor. Eat my hammer. It's like, oh, it's just my first bad guy. It's like, oh, you never forget your first. I was like, oh, yeah, so nice. But yeah, like, it's quirky, it's funny. This is a comedy movie, and like you said, Devin, if you're not a fan of Taika's like humor, you're not gonna like it at all. But yeah, that's just those are just a few of my thoughts for Thor: Love and Thunder. Definitely, like I said, you can check out my in-depth review over on InSessionFilm.com. I'll put a link in the episode notes for those people who want to check that out. But Devin, are you ready just to head on into spoilers?
Yeah, there's a lot to discuss.
He went from dad bod to god bod.
If only it were that easy.
I know. I mean, Thor was putting in work, to be completely honest with you, but there's no way we could do that. I do find that it was hilarious, though. But
yeah, and speaking of that, Chris Hemsworth is as ripped as he's ever been in this movie, and a lot of people have commented on that. But this man is huge, and he needed it for that scene with Zeus where he bears all. That
and Natalie Portman also put in a lot of work. I mean, I think she looks great as Mighty Thor, and honestly,
she's got those arms.
Yeah, she was putting pains into gains, odds into yards. So, ladies and gentlemen, that is your first spoiler warning for Thor: Love and Thunder. Again, that is your second spoiler warning for Thor: Love and Thunder. So if you haven't seen it, this is dropping a few days after it releases in theaters on a Monday, I believe. Not entirely sure, but yeah, definitely go watch it because it is a great ride, a great family film for anyone, just in general. If you're just looking for something just to turn your brain off, have a good time. Like, not everything needs to make logical sense, like the movie suggests. We're talking about a Norse god here, and talking rocks, and Valkyries, and Vikings, and Valhalla, and the Eternity, and a God Butcher. So, suspense of disbelief altogether. So, I think we have to start with the first thing. He seems to be everywhere. He's here, he's there, he's every freaking where. Mr. Hercules.
Yeah, that was definitely a big surprise.
It was. So when I watched it with critics first time around, I feel like the energy of the movie was there. When I watched it with fans, because I went at like 5:00 on a Thursday, so not everyone was out, but there were chuckles, especially during specific scenes. But I feel like I had a better experience watching it with the critics group that I went to, because everyone was just eating it up, having a great time. But yeah, so as we mentioned before, there are two. Actually, we didn't mention this yet, but there are 2 post-credit scenes in this movie. Definitely stay for both. One's like towards the middle, and one's at like the very end. The first one, as we were talking about, Thor kills Zeus.
Well, we think he kills Zeus. He like badly wounds him. So we get a nice little post-credit scene with
Roy Kent, aka Brett Goldstein, I believe his name is.
Yeah.
As Hercules.
Roy Kent from Ted Lasso. It's crazy.
Yeah. That literally blew me away. I was like, this is probably one of the best well-kept secrets like out there when it comes to Marvel. I guess introducing new characters and new villains.
He's got the look. You can see he's got that facial structure to pull off Hercules, I feel like.
He does. I mean, like he's a very like fit like guy too. So it's like, I mean, if for anyone out there who's watched Ted Lasso, Brett Goldstein plays Roy Kent, and he's also a writer on the show as well. I believe they are stopping with the third season though. I believe they did say the third season was going to be the final season for Ted Lasso, but I digress. Yes, he looks amazing as Hercules. And for the second post-credit scene, we get so Jane Foster throughout the movie. You find out that she has cancer, and Mjolnir, which was broken at the time, kind of calls to her, and she becomes the mighty Thor. But we also find out it's giving her great health. The hammer is not, it's effectively killing her because it's not giving her the treatment, like any of the, she has stage 4 cancer. So all the chemo treatments that she has, it's not, it's having like that negative effect. Like it's like canceling each other out. So she does die in the movie. And then we see her get into Valhalla because she did die on the battlefield, which I thought was a very, very nice touch. Like, especially a nice ending for her arc. Honestly, I feel like, I'm not sure if you feel this way, Devin, but I feel like, I think I'd rather have just taken like a singular story between Natalie Portman as Mighty Thor and Christian Bale as the God Butcher. And I mean, I would love to have Thor there, but I wanted him to play more of a, I guess like a background character, kind of let like, you know, Mighty Thor take the forefront. But that's just me. I'm not sure what you think about that.
Yeah, I definitely would have liked more time with Jane Foster, Mighty Thor. It feels like we could have just had more time to spend with her and get more attached to her as a character. Because like I said before, the first 2 Thors, there's just not much there for us to like latch on to. And Taika had to do some heavy lifting here to kind of get us not only caught up with their relationship, but also show us how their relationship even started in the first place, because the first 2 movies just did not do a good job.
And what she's been up to, which is kind of crazy to think about. But Devin, I'm not sure if you know this, but there is a swarm of people out there who swear that the first Thor movie is the best. I'm not saying it's bad. I think it's a great introduction to the character. You know, it does what it needs to do. I think it has a great story arc, but I definitely don't think it's the best. But that's me. You know, like we said before, the film is subjective, but there's a swarm of people out there who think that the first Thor movie is the best.
That's ludicrous. I don't know. Those blonde eyebrows are enough to knock it down at least 10 points.
That was, that was crazy. But yeah, like I said, I enjoy the story of the first Thor movie. I don't personally think it's the best. I think it's, I mean, if I'm ranking them right now, I think Ragnarok still ranks higher for me than Love and Thunder. And then it would be Love and Thunder as number 2. And then the first Thor movie.
Yeah, there's been a lot of talk of comparing this one to Ragnarok, which obviously it makes sense. But I just, even if it's not quite as good as Ragnarok, I just love how it fits into the world of Ragnarok so well. It fits into the world that Taika has built for Thor. Like, this is Taika's Thor, and he saved the character. There's a reason there's been such a resurgence in the likability of his characters, because Taika pretty much saved him. Just the dullness of the past 2.
I definitely agree with you there. Like we said, you know, it may not be the best work that Taika has done with Thor altogether, but it does fit in with that world. You know, the silliness is there. We get some amazing screaming goats throughout this entire movie, which I thought was kind of funny, simply because one of my buddies has a beagle mix, and he's always howling. His name is Benji, and every time I heard those goats scream, I thought of Benji. Yeah,
the goats was one of the recurring jokes, and also the love triangle between Thor, Mjolnir, and Stormbreaker. I thought that was amazing. The goats were funny for me the first couple of times, but towards the end it started to get a bit annoying for me, just because just screaming goats. It's like, okay, we get it, but I love how Stormbreaker is just like the jealous girlfriend the whole time. I love when he's talking about the Thunderbolt. and then Stormbreaker like slowly slides into frame. I thought that was just amazing.
Definitely. And of course, everything happening with, the God Butcher for Christian Bale, I feel we haven't talked too much on him, but I mean, of course, Valkyrie's always amazing. She's always there. She's the king of her people. We get a nice another skits within the movie with Matt Damon, of course. I love how that's a recurring joke. Of course, Korg is amazing, skate mates for life. But it really, when it comes, I mean, I think even though people say that we haven't gotten a lot with Christian Bale, I thought he was in the movie a good amount of time.
Yeah, there's the argument that could be made that the scenes he was in fewer scenes, which made them more impactful. Because every time he's on screen, you just feel it. It's
like Lord of the Rings when it comes to like Sauron. Honestly, even with Sauron, you never really see the physical embodiment of Sauron. Like you see him like once during the beginning, but his presence is always there. I feel like, opening up this movie with the God Butcher really kind of set like a nice background for his character. And of course, him originally trying to get to eternity to, kill the rest of the gods because his motives made sense.
Yeah, overall, it's a super solid story. Like the writing and the setup for the plot it's just solid. It's not amazing by any means, but there's not too much to complain about.
No, not at all. And like I said, I can see why people want a little bit more Christian Bale because it's like, why wouldn't you want more to see of Christian Bale on screen? He's a phenomenal actor, but yeah, just overall, I really just enjoyed this. So,
and it gets to the end where there's some turns that I never would have expected, and I did a good job of keeping you on your toes. I mean, Thor has a daughter now. Like, whoever would have gone into this expecting that to be the outcome of this movie? And I do believe, I initially thought that actress was Taika's daughter, but I believe it's actually Chris Hemsworth's daughter.
I did not know yet. I knew he had a son because during the very beginning when he's running through the field, that quick glimpse that is Chris Hemsworth's his son. But I didn't know he had a daughter.
I was trying to look through the credits. I don't even know if she has an official name. I guess people are just going to call her Love because of the narration at the end, calling them Love and Thunder. I heard the accent. It sounded like it could either be New Zealand or Australian. It's obviously one of those. So I was like, okay, Taika put his daughter in here. But I think heavy spoilers mentioned that it's Chris Hemsworth's daughter, which is even cooler because that's why they have such great chemistry on screen because it's a real dad.
I did love the very end. I mean, of course, Jane Foster is Mighty Thor. She essentially, she dies on the battlefield. She sacrifices herself. And I love how Thor is able to finally, he begs her not to use the hammer again. And he's like, I couldn't live with myself, regretting not to ask you to stay, to get better while he goes and faces Gorr. But overall, man, yeah, just a really great story.
I was going to ask, what do you think about Gorr's overall arc? Because the movie starts off, we get the backstory, the kind of prequel about Gorr's history and why he is the way he is, which I thought that was great, setting up as a more understandable and likable villain because he loses his daughter on their planet because they were worshiping a god and the god just laughed at them and turned his back at them. So that's when he kind of gets on his run of justice and revenge. But then towards the end of the movie, he sees the light, and instead of just killing off all the gods, he brings back his daughter and puts her in the hands of Thor to take care of her, which I thought was a very interesting turn because I don't know too much about Gorr in the comics history, but I feel like this might be a very different take on what he is as a character. Seems like he might be more sinister in the comics. I don't know if he would have kind of turn of heart like this.
I do think it was a nice full circle because when he finally, when he has the heart-to-heart with Thor towards the very end, and you kind of see the actions that Thor decides to take, instead of trying to destroy Gorr, he wants to spend the last few minutes that he can with Jane. I saw it more as like a selfless act for Thor because, instead of trying to stop Gorr, he decides to spend, the last moments he has with Jane.
And I thought it was great that Jane got the opportunity to save Thor instead of it being the other way around like it usually would be, even though it ended up taking her life.
That and, of course, the kids For a limited time only. Got that.
Yeah, I love that Heimdall has a son. I thought that was really cool. I don't know if we ever knew that before, but Heimdall having a son, going by Axel now, of course. But it was great to see him, and they mentioned his name a lot. So the whole time I was just thinking, okay, there's another young Avenger. We got him added. Like they're setting something up for him because he had a lot of screen time and a lot of name drops.
He did. And of course, we do see Idris Elba for a hot minute and in Valhalla because he also dies during battle, welcoming Jane to Valhalla. But yeah, as you were mentioning, I thought it was a nice little twist for Gorr altogether because, it's kind of like, when, like, how much is enough before you're killing all these gods. And clearly it's coming from a place of love and anger that, he mentions throughout the movie, Gorr mentions that he had a daughter. He tells the kids about it. And it kind of just made him the way that he is because, he renounces his God during the beginning of the movie. His God gets mad. And then, it's kind of just like a slap in the face. Gorr was pleading with his own God saying, hey, he's like, we're the last of your disciples. He's like, the rest of our people are wiped out. He's like, my daughter just died. He's like, I'm looking for help. He's like, I'm looking for guidance from the one being that, is supposed to bring me hope and prosperity. And then his God kind of just laughs in his face. So I kind of understand.
And then we see even the other gods when we go to Omnipotent City, I think they call it.
Yeah, Omnipotent City, yeah.
But we even see that he's kind of right because even they aren't really, they have their best interest in mind and they don't really care about the people that are following them. So it kind of feels like we're on the side of Gorr for a fair amount of this movie, which is always a good sign for a villain.
Yeah, I mean, his motives were very relatable. Even in the real world, a lot of people end up feeling that way. So it's a touchy subject, but I will say I'm very disappointed we did not see any of the Egyptian gods there. Or if we did, it might have just been, Tauret or somebody. Like that would have been kind of cool to see.
Yeah, there might have been somebody because they showed a lot of random faces, and there might have been someone mixed in there. But it was definitely cool. What was it? Bao, the god of dumplings.
Yeah, Bao, and Ninny of the Nunny, Korg's god.
Yeah, I'm sure there's some Easter eggs there that New Rockstars will point out for us, but
yeah,
we'll see.
Hey, Ninny Nunny.
I thought that scene was really, really cool. That whole setting looked amazing, and I love the fight between the three main characters and the golden protectors of Zeus, whatever they were called. But I thought it was interesting because whenever that trailer came out, everybody just immediately thought, Gorr's just gonna kill them all off, which I definitely thought was gonna be the case, but ends up being Thor that takes him out for briefly at least.
Yeah, he knocks him down for the count. And I really just, we also see that Jane Foster is very new to the god / superhero business. She's good at the fighting bits, but it's like, she's still working things out, but you can see her own personal struggles. I do wish it was more of a singular story about Jane, but it is what it is. I thought Russell Crowe as Zeus was great. He's playing the part as
from what I've seen, it could be a more like historically accurate depiction of Zeus because he was kind of like just an oaf at times, and I think he was going for a Greek accent, which obviously is more accurate. And I also wanted to mention the fight in the Shadow Realm. I thought that was just amazing. Like everything's black and white except for Stormbreaker and Mjolnir and the Thunderbolt, which is just visually amazing to watch.
I will agree with you there. As soon as you said Shadow Realm, my mind immediately goes to Yu-Gi-Oh!
Yeah.
Unfortunately, we actually got a bit of unfortunate news that the creator of Yu-Gi-Oh! Kazuki Takahashi passed away at 60. He was the creator of Yu-Gi-Oh! The card game, anime, all that. So yeah, as soon as you said Shadow Realm, or as soon as they even mention it, my mind automatically goes to Yu-Gi-Oh! Because that was, when it came to like the Egyptian way of playing, the card game of Yu-Gi-Oh! When somebody lost, they got banished to the Shadow Realm.
It actually reminded me, just watching it reminded me of the end of The Northman, just kind of an epic battle on, like, for them it was a volcano, but for here it's a black and white planet, like just a visually stunning final battle. I guess it wasn't the final battle, but a battle nonetheless.
Right. There's been a lot of Norse mythology stories told this year. I mean, like you just mentioned, the Northmen, of course. Now we have Thor, Love, and Thunder. And later on this year, we kind of mentioned in one of our other episodes, God of War Ragnarok is coming to PlayStation 4, PlayStation 5. I think I'm like November 9th. So it's a big year for Norse mythology all around. I'm here for it. I mean, I love the Greek gods, I love Greek mythos, but I never really spent too much time with Norse mythology. So I'm glad we're getting more of a history lesson, if you will. So overall, yeah, I thought it was a great tale. Like, I think Taika did a great job with this. Like I said before, it may not be as strong as Thor Ragnarok, because I feel like, I mean, there's emotional beats in both, but it's like, man, this Jane, you know, fighting to the very end for her and having her just the hammer choosing her and saying, hey,
I think
know,
she'll be
it's
back.
time. I think she will be too.
If Natalie Portman has time on the schedule, I think she'll be back.
Yeah. Also, really quick, I thought it was hilarious that Taika asked Natalie Portman to be in a Star Wars movie.
Someone hasn't watched the prequels.
Taika's a very busy man. I don't think, and it's kind of like, oh, you know, you'd be great for a Star Wars movie. Like, honestly, I still think she could be in a Star Wars movie. I was talking to a few friends about this. You know, if she were to go like the Lupita Nyong'o route, where she voices like a CGI alien or something like that, or something of that factor. But honestly, it wouldn't be mad if they just like threw her back in there. I mean, Star Wars is kind of all over the place anyway. So I think we lost the ability to tell a clear-cut story a long time ago. So, but that's just me. But definitely, yeah, I thought that was hilarious. And it would be Taika to be the person to ask her. I wish I would have known what that conversation was like. Like, Taika, I don't know if you know this, but like, I'm in like 3 movies. All
I'm
the
kind of
prequels.
Darth Vader's mom, or not
Wife.
mom, but
Wife.
Yeah.
Yeah. Or is she? Oh, Shui. Oh man, she's buried somewhere on Tatooine, I suppose. But Devin, let's get into our scores here, because I feel like we've kind of gone through our final thoughts, unless you had something else you wanted to mention before we get into our ratings.
Yeah, I had one last thing I wanted to mention. I feel like not a lot of people are talking about this, but I love the things that this movie sets up for the future of Thor and the MCU. Because, I mean, obviously, I think it would be perfect if Taika got his own trilogy. It just makes sense. Just give him the third Thor movie, as long as Chris Hemsworth's on board. Pretty sure he is. So we give him a third movie, he gets a trilogy. I think that would be awesome. And from what they've set up in the post-credit scene, it could be like a John Wick scenario where all the gods are going after Thor and his new daughter, Love. Like, how cool does that sound? He's got to fight off gods in order to just save his new daughter, and who knows what else Taika can come up with, but Hercules and Zeus and whoever else just hunting him down. Just sign me up.
I think that would be pretty cool. Like, I wonder what we call Thor, Thunder and Love. Just swap it out, swap it around.
Thor loves the thunder.
Thor loves thunder. He went from Sat God to Dat God. Man, I love those small little quips there for sure. But yeah, let's get into our ratings here, and then we'll kind of just close on out. I guess I'll just go first with my ratings overall. So I would give Thor: Love and Thunder like a solid like 4 out of 5 stars, which I think on In Session Film I gave it like an A+, but not like an A+ as in like it's flawless, just as an A+ as in I really did enjoy the movie. I mean, there's always going to be issues that we have with movies. Personally, sometimes I feel like we harp too much on the negatives instead of focusing on what made us like the movie altogether. I feel like some people can be a little bit overly critical. You know, it's our job to be critical, but sometimes, you know, there's always a line. There's always a point where I feel like, okay, now you're just picking apart the movie and, you know, being pessimistic about it. But for what it is worth, I think this was a beautiful story. like I said, I really wish I kind of would have gotten a little bit more of Natalie Portman. I wish it was more of a singular Natalie Portman's movie, but definitely one of the best MCU Phase 4 movies out there. Second best Thor movie out there for sure. And yeah, I'll give it like 4 out of 5. And I guess it'd be like a solid like A- or an A, something like that. But Devin, what about you?
Yeah, I really enjoyed overall. Plenty of laughs throughout. The action scenes were great, visually stunning, just really funny, which is kind of what Taika was going for at the heart of it. I don't usually complain about there being too much humor in MCU movies, which is a common complaint amongst a lot of people. But for this one, I will agree. There were times where it just kind of like it flipped up the tone a bit too much sometimes when there were jokes thrown in, especially for me specifically on the Shadow Realm planet. There were just a couple jokes thrown in where it's like, this could be a really awesome, like serious scene. But there was the jokes with the goats just screaming. It's like, okay, again. Yeah. But at the same time, it was very funny. Like consistently, my heater was laughing throughout. I was chuckling. Dad and sister were chuckling. Like it's just a funny movie, and that's what Taika's here for. So overall, I'd give this one. I mentioned I had some issues with there not being enough Jane or Gorr. Just there, if there were like 15 or 20 minutes added to this movie, I feel like we could have fleshed out a lot more with some of these characters. Mm-hmm. But they must have cut it down for a reason. Who knows? But definitely could have been better, but still very good overall. I'm going with like an 84. Just a solid entry.
I definitely agree with you there. Yeah, it was, like there's always good and bad parts, but overall, like I really did enjoy it. Like, I mean, whenever it comes to Disney Plus, like, or, whenever I buy it on Blu-ray, like, I'll watch it again, like 100%. It's just a great story. So that pretty much concludes our coverage, our review here of Thor, Love and Thunder. So if you've liked what you've heard here on the podcast today, please subscribe to our podcast on your favorite podcast platform of choice. I do apologize. My voice has been a bit raspy today, but always we ask people to share an episode of our podcast with a friend, whether it be your mother, your brother, your lover, whoever it may be. Make sure to share an episode of the Film Optix podcast with a movie lover in need. And really quick, what's coming up on the podcast, you might ask. We are going to be covering Solar Opposites Season 3 that will be hitting Hulu, I think it's July 13th. Prime Day. We got Prime Day coming up, Devin. That is going to be very interesting. Of course, we have our Umbrella Academy Season 3 review that is a spoiler-free episode out now for everyone, as well as our Miss Marvel Episode 5 review that is out for everybody to listen to. And we just wrapped up on our Stranger Things Volume 1 and 2 for Season 4 of the show. Both of those episodes are out on the podcast for you to listen to. So if you're a big Stranger Things fan, we talk about a lot. I actually think our Volume 2 review was just as long as one of the episodes. It's like an hour and 30 minutes, but it was a really great conversation. We kept the juices flowing there. So those are just a few things coming out on the podcast. We also
have the that Boys review that we did because the finale came out today. I don't know when you wanted to put that out.
Yeah, so as of this recording, if you're listening to this now, our The Boys Season 3 episodes 4 through 8 are on the podcast. As you're listening to this right now, we kind of just watched it a little bit early and we got a bit of ahead of ourselves and started just record it all together. So definitely check that out for sure. If you're a big Boys fan, the Boys fan, I should say, because that finale was fantastic. So yeah, thank you for pointing that out, Devin, because I totally forgot about that. I was like, oh yeah, we do have that. It's slated to go up, like it's scheduled and everything. I'm actually looking at it right now. I'm like, oh yeah, that is coming out. So definitely there. And yeah, we're working on a few projects here on the podcast. Probably won't see those until maybe later this month or maybe later in the year or early next year. Doing a little project with a few people. We're going to be recording some things early, banking a few episodes for you guys. So those will be like more singular episodes themselves. But that pretty much concludes our episode here today, as I mentioned before. We hope you guys have a great day, and we'll see you guys next time. And that's a wrap for today. Thank you all for listening. And if you enjoy the show, leave us a 5-star rating on Apple Podcasts or Spotify. And follow us on Instagram and Twitter to stay in the know. That was Devin. My name is Christian. We'll see you guys in Valhalla.
Peace.